The serious courtship has begun. The moment that she's ready to mate can be fleeting. N is determined that he's the one who'll be around when that moment comes. But her attempted escape was all part of the ritual. Karina soon returns to the dance. Two years ago, this couple successfully produced twins. Judging by the way the courtship is consummated, the signs are good for this season too. Summer has come again to Tasmania, and its wild rivers are swollen with melting snow. In a quiet backwater, as temperatures rise and the days lengthen, a female platypus is collecting material for her nest. She takes leaves one by one in her bill and jams them under her tail. To safeguard it from flooding, she's dug the entrance to her burrow several metres up the steep bank. Over the next few days, she'll make dozens of trips like this, until the nesting chamber at the end of her long burrow is lined with sticks and leaves. Back on the South Esk River, Nina Koch and Marcus Utesh are joined once again by David Pera for the start of a new season's work.
In the early afternoon, we go down to the South Esk River and set up a series of nets. These nets were originally designed to catch eels, but they're also really good and safe for catching platypus as well.
Ja, genau.
They position the nets across the water flow to trap the nightly traffic of platypuses as they feed up and down the river.
In the late afternoon, the platypus come out of their burrows and start feeding. They're very good at avoiding nets because their sensitive bill can pick up the water flowing through the mesh. Many evade the nets, but eventually we catch one.
Judging by the dates that last year's youngsters emerged from their nesting burrow, Nina and Marcus have worked out that the females will be laying their eggs very soon. Now is the time to fix radio transmitters to them. This one has a large bare patch on her tail, a sign that she's probably been courted intensively.
The tail. Yeah, got on all the animal. This might be a mating mark. All the fur is away from the tail surface.
They discover that she's one of the females they trapped and tagged last year. In fact, it's their old friend, Shy.
80-17, that's Shy.
Wow. We got Shy back. We'll come back.
Great.
After several weeks' exhausting work setting nets up and down the river, Nina and Marcus managed to catch 7 females. Each one is fitted with a new transmitter and released back into the river exactly where she was caught. For Nina and Marcus, it's the start of another period of intense work, tracking all 7 females for hours at a time. They find there's a wide variation in the platypus's behaviour. Some feed mostly in daylight. Others sleep during the day and feed all night. Some travel a kilometre or more up and down the river each feeding session. Others, including Shy, feed in one pool most of the time.
Where's the strongest signal coming from? Downstream or?
Nope. She must be sitting in there.
Wow.
Shy sleeps in the same burrow each day. Nina and Marcus want to pinpoint its exact location because there's a good chance it's where she's built a nest and is nursing her young.
Get reception here. And it's getting weaker.
Which game do you have?
10.
Game 10, maximum game.
Game 10 and I only have like 1. I would say it's about here. It must be around here. Not this point here. Gets weaker here.
Yep. But it's exciting. Get another burrow.
Yep.
And we should
And
mark
this one
the
looks a bit.
entrance.
This one looks a bit different than the
Yeah.
others. Yeah.
We should mark the entrance. To
Meanwhile, Peggy Rismiller and Mike McKelvey are still keeping track of their echidnas.
You think try again from here? Oh yeah, right towards that cypress.
3 weeks ago, this female was at the head of a mating train. She should by now have laid an egg.
Okay, I'm just going to feel first. Very tight little pouch.
quite a bit there because my finger.
Would you just be very careful because there's an egg. Oh my jeez.
See if you can get it closer down your way.
I'm going to pull the pouch open.
There's
There
the
it
egg.
is. There's the egg.
It's an egg
And
there.
it is a girl.
10 days after the egg is laid, a puggle will hatch.
In the egg, the echidna develops an enamel-covered egg tooth. It needs this egg tooth to actually rip open this leathery shell and then pull itself out onto the mother's belly. Look, there's the back of it. Inside the pouch, it's really moist and humid because that's what the puggle needs right now. As far as we know, at 2 grams, it has to breathe through its skin.
Tiny though it is, the puggle can safely be removed from its mother's pouch for a minute or so. At 2 days old, there's almost no difference between a baby echidna and a baby platypus. Less than 2 weeks later, it's already 100 times heavier than when it was hatched.
It's a girl.
The baby echidna by now has a discernible beak, just as a baby platypus would have a recognisable bill. After 7 weeks in the pouch, the mother leaves her young one in a burrow, returning every 5 days or so to let it suckle. Instead of nipples, the mother has specially adapted paws, clustered in patches on her tummy. As the baby suckles, the mother expresses the milk through her skin.
It doesn't need its eyes. I think it's like all very small animals. They go on scent, and so the young is scenting where the milk patch is.
At 6 months, the young one is almost ready for independence. Back at the South Esk River, Marcus and Nina have decided that the time has come to try to take a look inside Shy's nesting burrow.
Kann das so ein Wader sein von dir?
Shy has been feeding regularly for 16 hours in every 24, returning to the same burrow each day to sleep. They're sure she's nursing young. It's late evening. Shy's already left the burrow to feed. Nina, Marcus and David have at least 8 hours to try to get a glimpse inside the nesting chamber. First, Marcus drills a hole carefully into the burrow roof. Frequent measurements over the past 2 weeks have told him exactly where and how deep to drill. Meanwhile, David sets up and tests an endoscope with a tiny video camera mounted on its end.
So down is like that.
Yep.
So straighten it up. It was really exciting going down into the nest chamber for the first time. Those are roots coming down into the top. And then we saw the entrance to the chamber itself. And the nest was a really complex structure. It was tightly woven leaves wrapped around with sticks and roots. And there was even some green plastic in amongst the leaves. Yeah, that's the roof there, I think. But that's when our frustrations really began. Over a period of 17 days, we went in 6 times into the burrow, but we just couldn't penetrate the nest. And then at last, we got the endoscope through the nest wall. We first glimpsed a tiny bit of flesh through the leaves. And then another period of frustration, half an hour trying to get a glimpse of the bill.
Oh, it's platypus. Yes.
The bill looked huge through the endoscope, but it was really only a centimetre long. The front feet already had claws. And then, to our amazement, we saw there were 2 babies, not one, crammed into the tiny nest.
Thank you.
3 weeks later, we went into the burrow again, and we found them immediately. It's incredible. They'd grown enormously. Now they were covered in a thin layer of fur. There were even visitors inside the burrow.
It's a tick. I think it was a tick.
The ticks are only found on platypus, and already they're feeding on the blood of the young ones. Their bills are now large and very dark. We think the young are now about 6 or 7 weeks old. We're eager to see how the various parts of their body have developed. Their front feet have webbing between the toes. And on their back foot is the beginnings of a spur. The smaller one is female. The larger one has a much bigger spur. It's obviously a male. We called him Bigfoot. The nostrils are huge. We think they're probably used to find the milk patches of the mother. And here, the smaller one is rubbing the tummy of the larger one, as if it's trying to suckle. It was a revealing 3 hours in the burrow.
Nina is spending hours each day by the riverbank recording Shy's feeding patterns. It's late summer on the South Esk, and vast numbers of insects are hatching from the river. It's an ideal time for Shy to be feeding her young.
She's just feeding enormously. She spends 16 hours out in the river and she just goes along the river and wherever she is, just feeds. Unbelievable hungry little female.
A nursing platypus will consume up to half her body weight in food every 24 hours. Most of it consists of tiny morsels, which she must somehow find and separate from the leaves, mud or gravel on the riverbed. When she gets to the surface, she chews with a sideways motion of her grinding pads, separating out and swallowing the food. In a single feeding session, she may dive up to 1,000 times. Tonight, the team plan to go into Shy's burrow once again. So, while Nina tracks Shy to make sure she's out feeding, the team drills a new hole into her nesting chamber. This time, they're installing a tiny remote-controlled camera that will be able to film Shy feeding her young without disturbing her. Illumination comes from miniature infrared lights, which she can't see. And as well as the camera, there's a microphone to pick up sound inside the burrow.
That's the big one. There, oh.
The babies are now about 13 weeks old. Their eyes are open, their bills are fully formed, and their coats have grown thick. While Bigfoot plays with tree roots in the roof of the chamber, the smaller one is perhaps getting ready to take on solid food. Nina warns that Shy is on her way back to the burrow. As she approaches the nesting chamber, she unblocks the earthen plugs which she's set there to protect her young. Then she's through into the chamber.
Here we go.
Within minutes, the eager young are greedily suckling from their mother's milk patches. But the team is about to see behaviour that no one has ever seen before.
That is amazing. The young stopped suckling and then began to rub their mother's bill. Are they taking food from her? Perhaps getting a taste of those little animals that they themselves will be eating in the next few weeks? Or are they drinking her saliva? Maybe getting some of the bacteria that will strengthen their immune system. We don't really know what we're seeing in these extraordinary pictures.
Soon, Shy has had enough. She busily rebuilds the nest around her young. And then she's gone, leaving a tangle of tails and bills behind her. Ten days later, on watch as usual beside Shy's pool, Marcus and Nina spot one of the young platypuses in the water. Bigfoot, the male, has emerged from the nest. The team watches, enthralled, as the last chapter in the drama they've been following for months unfolds. Bigfoot needs no tuition from his mother. Minutes after his emergence, he's swimming and foraging expertly along the bank. He asserts his independence swiftly. Within a few weeks, he's travelling well upstream from his mother's pool. Soon, he'll have to leave this rich feeding ground. He's trespassing on the home range of older, larger males.
As Bigfoot begins his journey of life, our journey of discovery is coming to an end. We know nothing of what he does in the next couple of years. In fact, I feel that we've only just scratched the surface in understanding the platypus, one of the most mysterious animals on Earth.